Thank you so much for coming to Anthony Middle School for the dedication of David Anthony Middle School. My name is Sherma Duck. I'm the principal here at Anthony, and I'm proud and honored to serve the district here. At this time, would you please join me by taking out your cell phone and turning it to off or vibrate so that we can record this without interruption. We are substituting right now, so I'm going to ask Dr. Henry to come and offer the invocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you would, please join me in prayer. Dear Father, thank you so much for all that you've done for us. And Lord, I just praise you and thank you for allowing us to live in such a wonderful country and such a wonderful community. Lord, I thank you for all of the people represented here today, school employees, community members, and visitors, and the difference that they've made in the lives of children through their lives and careers. Lord, I also thank you so much for everything that David Anthony has done to benefit the state of Texas, the children of the state of Texas, and just the great example that he exhibits on a daily basis. Lord, I pray today that as we enter this ceremony, that we will always keep in mind all that we have to be thankful for. And we pledge this building in your name. Amen.
Today, we are going to honor a gentleman, David Anthony. He served as our superintendent from 2004 to 2011, but he has served in so many ways throughout his life for the state of Texas. The children and the adults that he knows have benefited from his leadership. Today, he serves as the CEO of Raise Your Hand Texas, and his work there is beyond compare to what he has done in Cypher. In February of this year, I had the distinct honor and privilege of being named the principal of this middle school. One of the first things I did was text David and ask him what he wanted to be, and he did give me some names of birds of prey for our mascot. I thought that's going to be a hard sell when some of them are coming from Sabercat land, but you know what? The kids voted for Ravens, so we are the Anthony Ravens. I also asked David to bring Janie and come and walk through the building with me and the architects and Division I and everyone else from our administrative offices. It was delightful to see his face and to see how he responded in each little crook and cranny of the building. Of course, at that time, it was not this version of the building. We still could see gaping holes. We still didn't have doors up. We've come a long way, haven't we, David? We are so fortunate to have a building that is named after David Anthony. We are proud and honored to be in the midst of his family today, and we're thankful to have them with us. Joining me on the stage to help honor David today is Dr. Mark Henry, who you heard from a little earlier. He is our superintendent of schools. Dr. Cheryl Salyards is a retired CFISD administrator. Mr. Butch Milks is a community member. Ms. Lida Woodall is a former CFISD board trustee. Mr. Don Ryan is our board president. Mr. Bob Covey is a trustee. Ms. Darcy Mangoya is a trustee as well, and Dr. John Ogletree is a trustee. And of course, the most important person on the stage is Dr. David Anthony, our namesake. We also have several of our Anthony Raven amazing staff members here today, so if you guys would stand and be recognized at this time, I'd appreciate you being recognized. I thank you so much for giving of your time this afternoon. I know how hard you work throughout the week, and I do appreciate that. I also know that David's family is here on the front, and his dad is with us today, and I do want to recognize his father. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Anthony. In opening a new school, there are so many people that do work behind the scenes, and I really want to give some credit to our operations department at this time. The operations department has worked diligently this weekend to make sure everything is polished and shining and ready for you to tour and see. And we also have the crew that has come from our radio and television department and helped with all of the sound, and we appreciate that. We also have people who have worked diligently behind the scenes that I know Dr. Henry will be helping me recognize with our Division I and Bay Architects, so we do appreciate them. I am going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Henry at this time, and we will continue the ceremony.
Good afternoon again. Have several people that we want to acknowledge that have made it in today. We're still updating that list as I'm up here. We have several former board members and namesakes with us here, and certainly we want to acknowledge those that have made it here today. If you would, stand up when I call your name, and then if you would, wait until I've announced everyone before we give them the applause they deserve. I did see also we have board member Tom Jackson here with us today, so I wanted to make sure I acknowledge Tom. Former board members, we have Mr. Lou Bertoli. We also have Mr. George Edwards, Miss Tommy Wolverton, and of course introduced earlier, Miss Lida Woodall, and she's on stage. We also have several namesakes with us here today. And again, if you would wait until I've announced all of our namesakes before we applaud. Ben Bradley, Debbie Emery, and if you would stand, please. Patty McPhee, Joan Postma, Betty Rennell, Cheryl Salyards, Carolyn Spillane, Deanna Swinky, and Bubba Wilburn. Let's give them a nice round of applause. Also, there are many people in here who have been our CFISD Friends of Education through the years, and our current friend of education that was honored this fall is also here. We have State Representative Patricia Harless. Patricia, would you please stand so we can acknowledge you? Anthony Middle School, which opened in August to over 1,200 students with a 1,568 pupil capacity, is located in the Town Lake subdivision. The Board of Trustees approved the site, architect, and completion date during the November 12, 2012 board meeting, and it was funded by the 2007 bond referendum. Anthony is our district's 18th middle school and was designed by Bay IBI Architects and built by Division I Construction. The three-story campus sits on a 45-acre multi-campus site adjacent to Rennell Elementary School. The structure uses each space for innovative learning and academic growth. It is also designed to be used as a technology and environmental teaching tool by having open viewing to the mechanical, electrical, and technology distribution systems. The campus is full of learning opportunities that include a phenomenal library and amazing flexible spaces which allow students to work collaboratively in small groups. Solar panels have been installed in the outside courtyard, and plans are in place to install a wind turbine at the campus to further expand the use of the building as a teaching tool. Additionally, a rainwater collection cistern system, along with other teaching opportunities, were built into the design of the external courtyard, creating an outdoor learning environment. From the outdoor learning courtyard to classroom instructional areas, the campus design lends itself to be a teaching tool for students. Anthony Middle School was designed for energy efficiency and meets the design requirements of the Texas Collaborative for High Performance Schools, a program that strives to promote sustainable, environmentally sensitive schools. The campus has elements that utilize natural daylight to increase energy efficiency. Maintenance and operations-friendly materials are used throughout the building, including vinyl flooring that requires no waxing and water-resistant materials on the walls to protect from water infiltration. Would the representatives from Bay IBI Architects please stand and let us recognize you? I know I've seen Mark French, Calvin Pawitsky, and Laura Michella. I think, yeah, they're all here representing. And then, Mark, do we have other members of your team here? We'll ask them to stand also if they would. Go ahead. I think we have several. I would also like to recognize Todd Hamby and Danny Struzik from Division I Construction, and any other members of your team that are here, please stand. I would also like to introduce Daniel Groves, Director of Design and Facilities Planning, and Shannon Thompson, CFISD Project Manager, who managed and provided oversight on this construction project. They're right over here. There are two other CFISD employees I would also like to introduce. These men were crucial in making sure the building was finished and ready for the staff and students. Roy Sprague and Matt Morgan, would you please stand? I would also like to recognize the district support team. Would you please stand? Every day, the people on this team make sure our children get to school safely, make sure our staff is of the highest quality and well supported, that our operational systems keep running, and our financial house is in order. Now to the main reason we are here today. It gives me great pleasure to participate in dedicating a school in honor of an educator like David Anthony. Dr. Anthony was selected as the namesake for middle school number 18 in November of 2012. He served Cypress-Fairbanks ISD as superintendent for 7 years before resigning in 2011. He served as a superintendent in public schools for a total of 24 years, a principal for 9 years, and a teacher for 4 years. I like to think the namesake's personality is reflected in each school that is built. Although I didn't have the opportunity to work alongside David directly, I did work with him as a fellow superintendent in the state of Texas and across the Houston area. If Anthony students reflect David's personality, then these students will be great problem solvers, never shying away from a challenge. Resilient and unflappable, always bouncing back from a setback, while never wasting time worrying about things they cannot change. They will be dynamic communicators who inspire others with enthusiasm and knowledge. They will love to learn and be forward thinkers, never accepting mediocrity. They will be courageous in their actions, especially when facing adverse situations. And they will always give credit to others for their contributions. I've known Dr. Anthony for almost 2 decades now. In a profession of type A personalities, David is rated by Fitch and Moody as AAA. That is a great thing for public school. That has been a great thing for public school students and educators across the state. He has always fought, and I use this word sincerely, for all children. One of my greatest fears in coming to CFISD was following Dr. Anthony. I know firsthand the courage, intelligence, and leadership skills he possesses. He and I have had a lot of good times together at meetings and on the golf course, and at some of those meetings, our wives have let us know that we've had a little too much fun. I've always tried to listen and learn from David. When I arrived in CFISD in 2011, David was a hero of mine. Over the past 3.5 years, seeing the work required to guide this great district, I am even a bigger fan. It gives me great pleasure to participate in dedicating this school in honor of a great educator and person like Dr. David Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. At this time, we are privileged to have the Anthony Middle School Advanced Girls Select Choir under the direction of Justin Baer to provide entertainment for our listening pleasure. Mr. Baer is new to Cypress-Fairbanks this year, and we are thrilled to have him as a part of our Anthony family. David, we want you to experience many memories today. We want it to be a momentous occasion for you, and as such, Mr. Baer has written a school song for Anthony Middle School, and hopefully you will enjoy that from the girls. As they enter, I want to make sure and thank any parents who have brought them today, because it is not required attendance, but they did come because they wanted to be here for your entertainment. So, Mr. Baer, I'll turn it over to you.
To
Mr. Bear and girls. We appreciate your singing for us today.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Salyards, and I am so grateful to be here today in this beautiful building to honor this visionary, dynamic, feisty, intelligent, courageous, and energetic leader for whom I had the privilege of working, Dr. David Anthony. I'm also loving the fact that we finally get to talk about this man in such a public way. As most of you know, number one, he's usually the one that gets to do the talking, and two, I think he thought he could slip out of CFISD without us having the opportunity to honor him for the strength of his leadership. Nothing could please us more than for David to finally not be able to control something. This is one time you have to sit back and let it happen. When he first came to our school district, I commented to David that many new superintendents brought a deputy or assistant to have a familiar and trusted member on his team. Well, he responded with the first of many to come leadership lessons. A good superintendent will build his team. And he did that. Since we couldn't all talk today, my remarks will include all of our thoughts. So here's to you, Dr. Anthony, from your associates, Deanna, Debbie, Harold, Marnie, Pam, Roy, Stuart, and Teresa. Now, David set the expectations from the get-go. He often used the biblical truth from Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. He communicated his vision widely among every school and department and throughout the community. And that vision was simple. All students will be career and college ready. He was using the terms relationships, rigor, and relevance long before they became so commonly verbalized. The bar was set high, and although he expected excellence from his staff and students, he held himself to the highest standard possible. And that's the way David lives. And aren't we glad? He guided us through one of the most difficult periods in CFISD's history, a time of financial crisis. But even while cutting budgets, position, and services that the public expected, and while experiencing unbelievable growth in enrollment, the district continued its commitment to high student performance under Dr. Anthony's steadfast leadership. Now, David taught us about leadership in many different ways. One was through his words. He wrote all of his own speeches, as well as his Monday morning notes that went out to every staff every week. In Monday morning notes, Dr. Anthony focused on tightening connections between and among staff and schools, on improving student outcomes, and on explaining current issues such as budget and legislative ones. It was also the Monday morning notes that showed us the soft side of David. And yes, there really is a soft side. He emphasized the importance of his family, his devotion to his one and only Janie, who's this quiet strength behind the man, was obvious to us all. Monday morning notes allowed us to celebrate with them as they became Bump and Graham to their 5 precious grandchildren. David would also remind us of why our country enjoys enormous freedoms and could point to no better example than his dad, Gordon Anthony, who fought for us in World War II. David used his mastery of the language to create powerful images for his beliefs and his principles, and he invoked indelible ideas about his vision for student success through his precise and well-chosen words. Now, for those of us who worked side by side with him, we had the chance to experience those words. We call them Anthonyisms, and while there are many I can't share here today, there are some you will relate to and likely have heard. No good deed goes unpunished. This wasn't simply David being cynical. It was often the reality in this large district, and we learned to solve problems in a way that didn't create problems. Or, oh yeah, they'll love you till they don't love you anymore. The lesson was think beyond what the person wants and determine what is truly the best solution. Or when facing a poor outcome or someone's bad decision where he'd have to eat crow, David would say, "Yeah, it tastes like chicken." He always kept things in perspective and considered it a waste of time to worry about things beyond your control. And the dreaded why. David expected everyone to be able to provide a thoughtful reason behind a protocol or process we had in place. And woe to the person who answered, "I don't know, that's the way it's always been done." It typically only happened once in that person's career. And the one many of you already know, conflict is good. Really? But in the end, he taught us that lively and frank conversations were good, and that if all opinions were heard, our thinking would stretch and strong decisions would result. Another one, the day I make a decision in this job so that I can keep this job is the day I need to leave. What a standard we should all live by. And the most outrageous one, friends are overrated. Look at this room full today. It's obvious Dr. Anthony has more friends than he might even want. And there were so many things he taught us by example. We learned that it's never about being popular, it's always about doing the right thing, especially when it comes to our students. And David lives life consistent with his beliefs. This made him our true north. We never had to waste time figuring out where our boss was going to fly on any issue. He was unwavering on policies that afforded student access to higher level courses. And he was relentless about creating pathways for students beyond high school in recognition of their aptitudes and interests. Never for 1 second did we doubt that David's primary concern was the main thing, our students. One of Dr. Anthony's strongest leadership qualities was expecting the most from his staff and allowing them to achieve it. He did not expect perfection. In fact, he helped us realize that timeliness was often what was needed, and he never micromanaged us. He always gave praise to others and would shoulder any blame. He trusted you explicitly until he had a reason not to. He didn't have to like you to include you on his team. He selected people who would get the job done. His straightforward manner built trust among his team. And David's team was expansive. It was fun watching him chat with his favorite gals at Cypher Cafe or stop and visit with the custodian just to turn right around and take an important call from an influential policymaker, all with the same interest and honesty. Every day he responded to hundreds of emails straight from individual staff members. His fan club was huge because he was accessible to everyone. It was amazing and instructive to us all. Recently, someone asked me about some of Dr. Anthony's greatest moments in Cypress-Fairbanks ISD, and I had to say that although there were some defining moments, the best ones occurred daily. Dr. Anthony showed up full throttle every day. We never knew if it was because he'd just been with students, or he'd seen great instruction in a classroom, or if he'd just listened to one of his favorite Pink Floyd songs. But he had energy, and he created energy every time he entered the door. Although I had some great positions in Cypher, I can honestly say I never had as much fun as I did with Dr. Anthony and the team he created. It's exhilarating to work with someone living his job to the fullest. Now, David rarely missed a chance to support our students. He attended every graduation, and this took days. It would be difficult to calculate the hours he spent shaking students' hands, the little ones and the big ones, over the duration of his superintendency. He encouraged teachers, and he saluted them at every opportunity, and he never passed up the chance to help a leader grow. These were the ordinary, everyday acts Dr. Anthony performed, and he did it in a way that inspired students, their teachers, and his leadership team. In closing, Dr. Anthony has commented that he thought his time in Cy-Fair was too short to deserve to have his name on a school. But we all know that today is not about his length of stay, but about the depth of influence Dr. Anthony has had on Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. Congratulations to a great leader, a great man.
Good afternoon. My name is Butch Milks, and I don't know a lot, but I do know this. I think the Lord approves of naming this school David Anthony Middle School. Just look at the glorious day that we've got here today and to have this dedication. I think I'd also be remiss if I didn't once again congratulate the architects, Bay, IBI, and Division I Construction Company on making an absolutely beautiful school. Do you agree? The only thing lacking was to put the right name on the outside of this building. And sure enough, the school board elected to name this school the David Anthony Middle School. You know, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, David, we were at another dedication, and it may have been the Carolyn Spillane dedication. I can't remember because I've slept since then. But you told me after the dedication that you thought that no school building should be named for anyone who had not spent a total career or maybe a minimum of 20 years shepherding young people in their educational process. David also indicated that he had only been at Cy-Fair for a few years, and he certainly didn't think his name ever ought to be on a building in Cy-Fair. And, you know, Cheryl has indicated to you that it's not the length of time that you spend, it's what you contribute while you're there. And I'll put it into a little bit better perspective that I can understand. You know, those of you who know baseball a little bit know that one of the greatest pitchers in Major League Baseball was Sandy Koufax of the 20th century. And Sandy Koufax was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Sandy Koufax, though, his total career was based upon about 6 or 7 years of pitching. And Dr. Anthony, I think you were here 7 years and in your tenure at Cy-Fair ISD. But wow, what a great 7 years. You certainly belong in the Hall of Fame namesakes in our great district. When Dr. Anthony called Cheryl and I and asked us to speak at this dedication, the answer, of course, was yes, because we all know that Dr. Anthony can be very persuasive. And then the district told us that we had a very limited amount of time to talk about this quintessential educator. And the only thing that I can think at this point is, I hope this microphone is not like the microphone at the Academy Awards and it disappears after my allotted time, because I won't get to stop, because I'll just have to talk a little bit louder, I guess. So today we are going to focus on Dr. Anthony's leadership skills, things that I've admired, but also things that other members of our community have shared with me. And one of the first Cheryl's alluded to is the fact that he's a great communicator, both with the spoken word and the written word. You know, Lotta Woodall, former board member, told me that when they were reading all the resumes of all the candidates for superintendency in Cy-Fair, Dr. Anthony's impressed her the most with what he had to say. And you know what? He wrote it all himself. And also, as Cheryl mentioned, Dr. Anthony sent out the Monday morning notes to let everybody know what was happening in this district. And he wrote those himself. I don't know whether he didn't watch Sunday afternoon football or 60 Minutes or what, but he wrote those notes and then sent them out on Monday morning. Darcy Mangoya, who at the time Dr. Anthony came to the district was president of the Cy-Fair Chamber of Commerce, told me that she always, on Monday, she called one of her friends who worked in the district and asked them, would you please send me Dr. Anthony's Monday morning notes? But Darcy also told me that David was also made himself very available to the business and community members of the chamber to make sure that all segments of our community. Is the bell about to ring? It might be an important announcement. I don't know. That for all segments of our community, so that everybody knew the great things that were going on at that time in Cy-Fair ISD, but also knew about the problems we faced, especially growth and financing in particular. People like to know what's happening in their district, and Dr. David Anthony certainly kept them informed both in written form and also by word of mouth. Another of his great leadership characteristics was that he was everywhere. You might find him in the morning at a chamber meeting, an afternoon athletic event, and a band concert all on the same day. It's been told to me by a number of people, I don't know whether it's good or bad, that he could show up at your school at any time, any day, anywhere. He could be walking down the hall or in the commons. You know, David shared with me a story. When he first came to the district, he heard about an English teacher at Jersey Village High School, Marty Parham. And some of you might know Marty and know that she's an excellent English teacher, or was an she retired last year, excellent English teacher. But she did not spare any words. She did speak out and told her thoughts. And she told somebody, you know, no superintendent, as long as I've been teaching, has ever come to my classroom. Well, there's only about 8,000, Marty. But anyway, that being said, Dr. Anthony heard about this, and Marty had put a chair up by her desk, and she called it the superintendent's chair. So when Dr. Anthony heard about this, he decided he's going to go see Marty. So one morning he got up to school early, went up to her room, and was sitting in the superintendent's chair when Marty got there that morning. And most of you who know Marty Parham, she was not without words very often, but I think this was one of those. And speaking of being everywhere all the time, in the early 80s, Tom Peters and Robert Waterman wrote a book about leadership called In Search of Excellence. They had coined an acronym, MBWA, which stood for Managing by Walking Around. They used Abraham Lincoln as one of the great early users of this leadership philosophy. But they just as well could have been talking about David Anthony, because he was everywhere all the time, or at least he seemed to be. Another one of Dr. Anthony's leadership characteristics was his belief in supporting his people. If they did the right thing for the right reason, they knew he would have their back. Loyalty is a great characteristic. But the loyalty characteristic with Dr. Anthony, I don't think started with his education career. I heard from a member of the East Texas Baptist basketball team that he played on, Bobby Metcalf, son of Roy and June Metcalf, that Dr. Anthony, if there happened to be a scuffle or a ruckus with one of his other teammates and one of the opponents, he was right up front defending his teammates. And in fact, a good friend of Dr. Anthony, former Superintendent Curtis Colwell, told me that at one particular game, which resulted in a few hard feelings between the two teams, at the next home game, David was introduced as, starting at guard, David Fast Hands Anthony. I don't know what that means, but it must mean something. Being loyal, either for your basketball team or for the employees of your school district, is an important characteristic of leadership. And also, Dr. Anthony has been known to be and considered to be a quick, my voice is going to change when I grow up, a quick and decisive decision maker. But a lot of people didn't realize his quick decisions probably came after a lot of research and study, even before that issue ever surfaced. And that happened a lot. But I'm going to tell you a couple of instances where his quick decisions he might have changed if he could. One was a long time ago again. It was back at East Texas Baptist College, and Bobby Metcalf told me this one too. And they were practicing one afternoon, and it had been pouring down rain all day long. And somebody ran in the gym and told Bobby and David, "Your duplexes are flooding." Remember that, Janie? And so they ran out of the gym, ran to the duplexes. They were right next to each other. And Bobby opened took his key, opened his door, pulled the door open, and 1 foot to 1.5 foot of water ran out the front door. David ran over to his duplex. Oh, he didn't have a key. Okay, not a problem. Quick decision maker. He knew that there was an open window on the side, so he ran over to the open window, threw it out, stepped inside his duplex into the flooded floor. Unfortunately, he had forgotten about the electrical outlet that was right below the window, and needless to say, he had a very shocking revelation. And then more recently, in one of David's fast decisions, and it happened to be on August 25th, the first day the school opened, I had the great fortune of being here with Sherman Duck and Dr. Anthony out greeting buses. And I mean, the kids were getting off and they were hugging, and it was just one of those moments. And Dr. Anthony, I think he got caught up in it. And he looked at Sherman Duck and me and he said, "You know what? If I ever came back into education, I wouldn't want to be a principal. I wouldn't want to be a superintendent. I just want to be an assistant principal of a middle school." Well, Dr. Anthony, I'm the father-in-law of an assistant principal at a middle school, and he might disagree with you a little bit. But the one characteristic that stands out to me about Dr. Anthony is his compassion for education for all children, as Dr. Henry said, to give them the best opportunity to develop their capabilities. Dr. Anthony's friend, superintendent of schools in Garland, retired superintendent of schools in Garland, Curtis Colwell, told me, and he knows a lot of people, he'd never known anybody in his life who had a greater passion for education. And then finally, there's Dr. Anthony's priorities. You know, I visited with Janie and David at lunch one day this summer, and I asked him, you know, next to your faith, what's the most important thing in your life? And without hesitation, he said it's family. And once again, Bobby Metcalf told me the story. I told my wife I wouldn't do this. Told me the story that after Roy's funeral, David and Bobby went back to David's office, and we're talking about the families and so forth, and David raised his arms, looked around, and he said, you know, Janie's been going through some health issues, and I'd give all this up to just help her. Yeah, he got his priorities straight. The school board, y'all make a lot of decisions when you vote on issues, but I'll promise you this, you'll probably not get a more unanimous vote by the community than the decision to name the school the Dr. David Anthony Middle School. And I know we've all heard that Dr. Anthony could quote scripture or lyrics to a song for almost any situation, so I hope to be able to close with something like that today. I couldn't find the right scripture, but a couple of months ago, I think God directed me to a certain country and western radio station and a certain song that to me sums up the life of Dr. David Anthony. And I was going to bring my guitar and sing it to you today, but my wife suggested that probably wasn't a good idea, and I tend to agree with her. But see if you don't agree with me that this song from the chorus from a song by Aaron Tipton doesn't speak to you about David Anthony. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You've got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. Never compromise what's right and uphold your family name. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. To the Anthony family, on behalf of the Cy-Fair community, I'd like to thank you for your husband, for your father, for your grandfather, and for your son in serving our district. And to Dr. Anthony, I'd like to thank you for all you meant to this district, to our kids, to our community, and to public education, then and now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for coming this afternoon. I'm a little bit shorter than Butch. My name is Lyda Woodall, and I served as a board member in Cy-Fair from 1999 to 2012. I was on the board that decided to invite David to be our superintendent. We were responsible for hiring him. While we took some members of the community by surprise with our choice of this young firebrand, we had confidence that we had made the right decision for our district. We were facing many challenges and needed a strong leader. David brought with him a strong will to succeed when it felt like everyone else in the state wanted us to fail. The current success of our district is a direct result of his willingness to lay everything on the line for our students and our staff. I'm privileged to take part in this dedication today with this beautiful school for my friend, who continues to make a difference in the lives of young people throughout our district and great state of Texas, even if he did come from Louisiana. At this time, I would like for all of the attendees on the stage to come down and sit in the reserved chairs. We're going to view a video. But first, I do have a few more words that I would like to share with you about David. During the interview process, it's kind of a dance between a board and a superintendent. I'm sorry, I'm going off script on this, so you'll have to excuse me. But there's a dance that goes between a board member and a prospective superintendent. I remember distinctly David saying, he complimented Mr. Berry on his legislative acumen, and he said, you know, I will do whatever it takes to be successful in Cy-Fair when it comes to Austin. I will go as many times as you want me to, but it's not really my thing. I'd rather be here in the district working. Well, I think it makes me very proud to know that your time, David's time spent in Cy-Fair, kind of helped prepare him for the position that he has taken now with Raise Your Hand, Texas. And I think that he probably was able to hone his skills and kind of prepare himself. We did have a few rough patches in our district at the time with board members, if y'all can remember. And I think it kind of prepared him for some of the challenges that he has been facing in Austin. I have to thank David for his wise counsel. Whenever I was considering running for re-election with a very nasty political climate, I thought about it a great deal and made an appointment and went and sat down with David with huge reservations. It didn't take long for David to take my concerns and turn them around, and I walked out of his door assured that the community would support me and everything would be fine. And he was right. Yes, it was nasty. Yes, I was successful. And he convinced me that I did have something else I could give to the district, and I think that he was right. I do think, however, I've been volunteering in the district for probably about 20 years, first as a library aide all the way to president of the school board. And I think probably my greatest contribution to our district for longevity purposes was hiring David Anthony. He will ever, ever be my friend, and I am just so very proud of him and the work that he is doing with his new organization and in Austin. He gave that same support to all of our staff members, to all of our board members, and I just couldn't be more proud of him. Now, I have official business to take care of. I ask that you please direct your attention to the screen. It will come down, I am assured. The video has been produced to capture the essence of David, our namesake, and the beginning of Anthony Middle School for the students and staff members who will learn and work here in the years to come. This video will become a permanent part of the history of the school and will be available for students, parents, and staff to view each year. Please join me in watching this video tribute to Dr. David Anthony.
It was amazing to watch Dr. Anthony lead this school district.
He had a way of words, both speaking and in writing, that he would just nail it almost every time.
You know, I have the utmost respect for him.
Every day was an event with Dr. Anthony.
He just had a great ability to lead.
I really enjoyed it. I went back to the school where I graduated and taught, and I love teaching. And after 4 years, I became a principal, and I never looked back. Over the course of 3 years, we became one of the best schools in the parish, and in the course of 5 years, we were the best school in our parish and one of the best in the state. So I went back and I called Mike Moses and I said, hey, I think I may apply for that job in Cypher. He said, well, I don't know. You know, they really want somebody that's got district over 25,000 and 3 high schools or more, because it's such a fast-growing district, so large and so many high schools.
Probably the defining moment, from what I've heard from the board members, was at the very end of the interview. Dr. Anthony got everybody's attention and eye contact, and he told them, you have the very finest school district in the state of Texas, and I really want to be your superintendent and lead it in the future. And Lyda said it almost gave her goosebumps when she heard that.
The opportunity to work in that environment, I saw, I'll never have a greater learning opportunity in my life. I'll never have a greater opportunity to fail, and I'll never have a greater opportunity to succeed.
From a really good source, I was told after she laughed for 3 minutes, she told me that he was an incredible guy to work for.
I want to introduce you to the most excited employee in Cypher ISD, me!
He was passionate about educating the kids in the community. When I first ran for office in 2006, Dr. Anthony came and introduced himself to me. He was very passionate about making sure I understood Cypher ISD and the issues that face Cypher. and we just hit it off.
Dr. Anthony, when you first meet him, can be a little bit intimidating. You know, he's a tall man, very friendly, and you know right off that he's a very intelligent gentleman.
The very first meeting I ever had from him, I went in with an agenda and I laid it down about 3 feet from him, and I saw him glance over at it and he glanced back at me. He knew what was on that agenda and he quickly got to the bottom line, and I walked out of there thinking, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? And I think legislators knew they could count on him. He looked for ways of where there could be consensus, and he looked for solutions that would result in real outcomes for students, and provided those ideas.
It was my obligation to do for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD and for public education in Texas. So I thought we developed a tremendous relationship with our legislative delegation.
I knew that he was the go-to guy of not just Cy-Fair, but the surrounding school districts.
But if you continue to cut education funding in this district when we were efficient before all these cuts made, then I can tell you to get ready for some more negative numbers.
And probably the greatest of which that he faced as superintendent during his tenure was the legislature and its general attitude about funding and about public education in general.
We cut $100 million out of the budget in 2 years, and we lost a lot of good people, and we cut some good programs.
They knew that the state funding was limited, and they forecasted and foresaw that the future of school finance and funding was going to continue to decline, and they were smart enough to bring that to the attention of their board and start planning for a future with less money.
He made very courageous decisions so that financially this ship could stay on course, and it did.
Dr. Anthony was able to get through the economies that the state legislature put us in, and despite all that, he was able to implement programs in our district that were vital to our success.
A good state test score.
He was so comfortable with conflict. He absolutely encouraged conflict, which was hard.
The type of leadership I have is that I like to argue, and I like for you to argue with me and prove that I'm wrong, and because I'll find out how you really believe and you'll find out what I really believe, and you may have a better idea than I do.
I've always said Dr. Anthony can quote scripture and rock and roll songs more than any person on this earth. Any time that he needed to crystallize for us what he was trying to say or to accomplish, it could either come out of the Bible or it could come from a song, and we could get it that way. He's incredible.
You are a big part of the glue that keeps this community of approximately 800,000 people together.
And when you heard him speak at leadership meetings, at school dedications, at honoring people's retirements, whatever the occasion, he just has a gift from God.
While I was here, we did some great things. There's no question about that. But there were about 14,000 people that made me look really good.
Another part of Dr. Anthony's leadership skills is knowing when to walk away.
He always would say that you don't retire from something, you retire to something. And so I knew that's what he was doing.
Texas outperforms most of the country. And so are we where we need to be? Maybe not.
For Dr. Anthony to retire from Cy-Fair, but then to become one of the public spokesmen for public education with Raise Your Hand Texas, to me, he's the perfect representative to represent all of us in public education.
And this is the namesake of our school.
I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine certainly what Cypress-Fairbanks' fate would have been, but what many of these other districts would have been if we didn't have this incredible, fiery, energetic force.
Well, in terms of what Dr. Anthony represents, to me, I saw a sign last week at Cypress Ranch High School that said a great leader sets a positive example by his deeds and actions. And to me, that defines Dr. David Anthony.
I got paid to learn working in South Area ISD.
Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
And then, yeah, I think I gave back. I think we had to make some tough decisions, and I was willing to do that. And I never lost sight of who the main thing is. It's the kids. I can't think of a place where I'd want my name on a building other than Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. It's just so overwhelming when you think that only 7 years of my career, it took me that long to get here. And then I have this unbelievable building bearing my name.
It's been my honor and my pleasure. Thank you.
My name's Justin.
Justin, mine's David Anthony, Anthony Middle School.
You made the best. This is the coolest middle school I've ever been to.
Hey, me too, man. Thanks.
David, at this time, on behalf of the Anthony Raven staff and students, we'd like to present you with a few things. So if you'll come and join me at the podium. The first, oops, I am dropping things here, pardon me. The first item, I want you to go ahead and take it out because when you come to Anthony, you're a part of our team, and we have Anthony Raven ties that our gentlemen wear. So we want you to have that as a token of your membership here. The other item I'd like to give you was actually designed by Brett LaFosse in our state-of-the-art shop. Our industrial tech students will be using the engraver that he used. Cool. And he made a brick for you. We also have a couple of items for encouraging your leisure. And we heard through the grapevine that you enjoy a good game of golf. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes.
Oh, good. Because we got some Anthony Raven golf bags so that you would be able to locate them on the course. So we hope you enjoy those, and we hope you have a good time with those in your leisure. I believe that at this time, Roy Sprague is going to come and join us on the stage. There is a little present, I believe, from the architects.
Get my glasses out so I can read here. Dr. Anthony, in one of your staff meetings, you challenged the administrative team to transform public education. Within our facilities department, we took that challenge very seriously. Even though our team only plays a support role in this transformation process, we challenged ourselves and our design team to push the limit to develop a design that will help achieve this goal. I think everyone would agree that we have met and exceeded that challenge of transformation with the design and construction of Anthony Middle School, which is now a living example of your vision and leadership that will serve the students of our Cypher ISD community. On behalf of our project and facilities team, as well as our support services staff, it is my distinct honor to present to you a framed photo of Anthony Middle School to hang in your office or your home as an incentive to continue your pursuit in your vision to transform public education.
You don't like that, Jimmy. It's okay. We don't want to see that one.
It's over.
It's over here.
Okay.
There we go. Now I'd like to invite Don Ryan to the podium. He has a presentation.
This could be good.
He's going to make it short and sweet.
First off, I'd like to thank Cheryl and Butch and Lyda for stepping up today to speak when Larry and Bill couldn't make it. Thought that was big of them. That was really special. And then David, before I say anything, I'd like to start and just share with you one of my, I like to call them Don's pearls of wisdom. You're pretty past that point right now, and you'll know in a minute. Others of you may want to write this down. John, you can use it from the pulpit next Sunday if you'd like to. But actually, there are 3 things you should never do during football season. The first one is get married. The second one is die. And the third one is have a school dedication on a Sunday. But I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. I do want to share something with y'all because after Rick retired and the board, and I know Lou's here, Lyda's here, and John's here, the four of us that were on that board, the greatest decision we made as a board, besides hiring David and Mark, was actually hiring Mike Moses and David Thompson. David's here. David, stand up, please. If you guys, you need to know him. But if anybody's a superintendent in the state of Texas, Mike Moses knew them. And so when we're going through the packets and everything, and Lyda touched on this a little bit, but we said, tell us about David Anthony. And Mike just he gave you that look like, well, he's different. We're like, what do you mean he's different? Well, he's pretty much the exact opposite of Rick Barry. And we're like, okay, all right. And he's a little rough around the edges, just putting that out there to you as well. So we're like, okay. So then we brought him in for an interview, and then we told Mike, we said, hey, we want to bring him back. And he said, you serious? And he started laughing. And we said, yeah, we want to bring him back. And you know, what I learned over 7 years is David is extremely different. But being extremely different is what led us to greatness. And I think everyone can agree with that David led us to greatness. And then we've got the team of Mike and David that we got, and they brought us Mark Henry, who will continue to lead us to greatness. So, David, thank you for all that you've done. And I know there's a proclamation here. I had to Google a couple of the words in here, make sure I knew what they meant. All right, now you can come stand up here. Come on. Proclamation of Dedication, David Anthony, EDD, Middle School, November 2nd, 2014. Whereas David Anthony served as a teacher, principal, and superintendent for 37 years, 24 of which were as superintendent, 7 as superintendent of schools for Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. And whereas David was a dynamic, indomitable, passionate supporter of quality public schools, indomitable was when I had to Google it, just so you probably knew that. Whereas he was a respected visionary, a gifted communicator, always willing to accept a challenge, and expected nothing less than the very, very best from his staff and students. And whereas his enthusiasm, wisdom, and high standards inspired students, staff, and the community. And whereas David was a relentless advocate for equitable and appropriate school funding, continually questioning the status quo and always holding himself and school leaders accountable. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District that the school located at 10215 Greenhouse Road in Cypress, Texas is hereby named David Anthony Middle School.
Well, for those of you who thought you were going to get out at 3 o'clock, get over it. We all knew that, and I thought it would be my fault, but it's not, thank goodness. Second thing is, for the second time in my life, I have no reason to even wonder what a eulogy is like. I've had it, and like many, I don't recognize some of the people they were talking about today. The third thing is, all I did was do the job that I was hired to do. That's it. Well, there is a fourth thing. I still got a quorum. So Lou, Don, John, and Lida, 4 of the 7 that hired me are here. There were only 4 of the 6, really, because there was one position. I want to thank the board and Dr. Henry for giving me this great honor and opportunity. I want to thank the board that hired me because they took a chance on someone. I always felt like that it was Mike's reaction and is the one I got in every job I ever applied for, him. And I want to thank Roy and everyone, Mark French, Bay. It's the most incredible learning facility I've ever seen. And I think that you've outdone yourself, and I'm overwhelmed, I'm awed, I feel very inadequate and extremely uncomfortable about having my name on this facility. And I heard what they all said, and I appreciate that. Butch has known me for over 20 years. Cheryl, no one knows me the 7 years that I was here at any greater depth than what Cheryl Sayers had to put up with, and it wasn't all that wine and roses, I can assure you, especially not wine in the school district. But and then Representative Harless, my all-time favorite legislator, and we had many late-night conversations from the House floor about specific bills, and there's not a greater advocate for public education. The fact she's here means a great deal. And the Raven with attitude, that painting, Terry Crump, our own local artist here, of great renown, incredible vision. We described it over the phone. I swear, less than a week later, he had caught it, and that Raven has tremendous attitude. But you know, I want to look just for a few minutes. I'm not going to keep you long. I've already blown the football game. Maybe you can get the nighttime version or whatever. Go to Sports Center. I don't want to keep you here long, but there's a few things I have to say. When I look out at the people who are namesakes, the people that I work with, the people who were here in the district, I mean, it would have taken a complete buffoon to fail or perform at a less than spectacular level. There was so much great infrastructure in this district. There was a great attitude, a great culture. When I think back to the architects of the culture, the legacy of this district of high performance, meeting the needs of the community and the needs of the students, then I think of Don Thornton and Bubba Wilbur. Bubba, you still here? There you are. And then Rick Berry. When you look at the leadership that this district had, it was a great opportunity. I meant what I said in the video. It was an opportunity for me to learn from great people here. Now, what they had was someone who would lead with their chin. And I would like to say that I would always do that if I thought it was right for the kids, because I was lucky to get the job, and I was glad to have the job, and our job was to do what was best for kids every day, all day. So I look out here and I see these great people and what you did while I was here, and that what you did before I was here. And I know that question I asked my wife last week, I said, they asked me on that video, what were your greatest, Butch Milks asked me this too, what were your greatest accomplishments in Cy-Fair? So I started numbering them, and I haven't gotten to one yet. I I don't think there was nothing great that I did. I fit in well. I took advantage of the great wealth of experience and knowledge and expertise. I was smart enough to know that I didn't know all the answers, but I was smart enough to know that I could learn from tremendous people. And you know what? That's pretty good. So rule number 1 was the Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm. Don't mess it up. And while you're not messing it up, learn what needs to be done. And so I was selected. And it was the greatest 7 years of my career. It was the most challenging. I had the best board. I got hired by the best board, and there were only 6 at that time, but the best board I ever worked for, all at one time. Now, I had other board members, great board members come on, and I had 3 hijackers who were ejected by the community. Because you can't come in here and hijack Cypher ISD. They give you a chance, but if you blow it, you have to go. And that happened here. And so that's what's great. When I look at the people who are out there, we have community members, that's what Butch was. We had Cheryl representing all of the staff of the district. We have kids here. We have people working with kids. We have community leaders. We have every segment of the population that makes this district great. It's not one person. It is much more than that. But I want to introduce some people because this was the greatest opportunity for me. Now, I did some good things here. I hired some really good people. I hired some hard-headed people. And I hired some excellent people. And sometimes they were the same ones. And then I had staff members who told me how hard-headed I was. And I'm not calling names, Betty, but you know who you are. And people who stomped their tiny little feet. Janet and Cheryl and Pam and Deanna. And you know what? They were right. They made me better. I was a pretty darn good superintendent in 2004. Nothing to compare with what I was in 2009 and 10. I was made better by people who were here and people we hired. But you know, I want to introduce some folks. Because the most important people, the person that made me, you know, instead of having my name, if I hadn't married Janie 42 plus years ago, instead of having my name on this building, I'd probably be incarcerated in another building with somebody else's name on it. She's kept me straight. She's been my greatest supporter. She's heard all the things that people say about superintendents, all the allegations, all of, you know, when you go home and everyone is mad at you, you just hope that maybe your significant other is not, because then it'd be, you know, unanimous. But there were those days because I had a tendency to make people mad. Now, most of the time we all got over it. Sometimes maybe not, I suppose, but Janie and I met. I remember the first time I saw her, she was 5 years old. I thought she was a baby Eskimo, a little round cut, fat face and short hair. And then we rode the same bus together for 10 years. And then I fell in love with her in high school, and we dated forever. And then we've been married for 42 years. She stayed with me. Never considered divorce, but murder has come up multiple times, I can tell you. And you know what? Even my father would say it was totally justified. On the way over here, a good friend who was a Korean War veteran, and he was a crusty old bird back when I knew him when I was principal at Converse, said he called and he's been sick with heart failure and couldn't be here. And he said, David, we said, we're really proud of you. We're really proud of you, boy. He said, we're proud, a lot more proud of Janie than we are you, and he was honest. And so I've had that all my life, but you know what, they're right. The best snap decision I made was marrying Janie when she was so young that she didn't know that there were other options out there. And then, you know, she also raised our family. We have 2 boys, and she raised them because I was spending 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I was moving them all over the country. My boys, if you ask them, where'd you grow up? They said, well, Mom and Dad, because there's no place. I mean, we moved every 5 or 6 years, but Derek's here, and his wife, Ashley, Ray, was here. And then there you are back in the back with Amelia. Caroline, many of you got to know when Caroline was the first granddaughter. Stand up and wave your cask, Caroline. Caroline, Ashley, and there's Amelia, and Oliver's right here on the front. Derek lives in Houston. Derek, Ashley, and his family live in Houston. Jared, my younger son, and his wife, Sarah, y'all wave, stand up, or do something. And they live in Phoenix now, thank goodness. They got out of the frigid West Hartford, Connecticut world. And their two children are Ellie, there you go, Ellie, and Gordon, the little Gordon. Now, the reason I introduced them first is because the other one is a decorated veteran of the Battle of the Bulge. My father has 2 Bronze Stars, fought in the Battle of the Bulge, one of the youngest Americans to fight over there and survive. And so he's my favorite veteran. And you've all read about him in Monday Morning Notes on several occasions. My younger, bigger brother, Daryl, wave your hand, Daryl, and Kay, my sister-in-law, and then my baby sister, Christy. Raise your hand, Christy. When we all had hair, we were all red-haired, the whole family. And stand up, Drayton. And my niece, Drayton. So I have the family here, and that's what's important. And we all have to have. But when I look at family, I look at community leaders, legislators, and there's not many like Patricia. Educators, what a support structure. And so this district is very blessed. And having a middle school is most appropriate because there's a guy here who knows me. He's not, no one knows me like Janie and Daddy and Daryl and Christy. But there's one close, Joe Salter. Where are you, Joe? Mr. Salter was my general science teacher in high school, my high school principal as a senior. He hired me to teach for him for 4 years. He supervised me when I was principal. The only way I could get away from him was to leave the state. But he retired and he was also a legislator and became Speaker of the House in Louisiana. Joe Salter is a mentor. He taught me a lot about what it means to be an educator and what's important. And the other one that you've heard about today, even though he's younger than me, one of my mentors is Curtis Colwell. Curtis Colwell and I go back to 1989, 90, somewhere in that range, and I've depended on him a great deal. And he's one of the smartest and one of the most well-read people I know. And so he is a mentor, even though he's a younger version. And one other person, Deborah Salgi, is my Chief Administrative Officer, Raise Your Hand, Texas. And so I appreciate all of you being here today. I just want to finish up with a couple of things about this district. And I heard it today, and it's what we wanted to be. We wanted Cy-Fair to be the legacy for our district. Student-focused, research-based, data-driven methodology delivered in an environment of respect and relationships. This is the smallest big district you'll ever see because people work together. They're very competitive. These 85 plus campuses, I don't know how many it is, Mark. 85 campuses. And they are competitive, gee, criminy, but they pull together. They work together, and we had a great working relationship with central office, with principals, with staff members, and it's just the focus was on the kids, not on the needy adults. We didn't have tolerance for needy adults. I had less tolerance for needy adults. But I want to show you something. Principals, stand up. Principals, any principals. Many of these principals I hired. I see the last one I hired here. And those of you who were principals when I was here, stand up. I want to tell you what, we have the best principals in the state, absolutely best in the state, because when they get interviewed by Raise Your Hand Texas, they get selected because they are outstanding at what they do. And I appreciate what they did, and central office staff and everyone. It was great. And I think about Kafka's Gestalt theory. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We had strong people. We had strong people, outstanding people. But you know, when you combine them all together, we were much better than just any one individual, including me. And so having my name on this great learning structure is the most tremendous honor that I could expect or ever want or hope to experience in my professional career. And 10 years ago, never entered my mind. Never thought about it. But it's there because of you. And I thank you for what you've done. Everybody sacrificed. My family, moving them all over the place. They didn't quibble much. And you know what? If it meant, and I made some mistakes here. I did. Well-intentioned, but still mistakes. And I made some mistakes with them. But I'd do it all again if the result was that I could spend my last years as a superintendent in Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. Thank you for a great day.
David, I think you wanted to unveil your portrait.
Oh, do I want to?
Mm-hmm. Let's get this unveiled. Let's see what we can do. Come on, let's go look at this.
The good news is it looks just like me. The bad news is it looks just like me.
And the great news is it will be hanging in our front reception area from now on. We are thrilled to have this portrait of David Anthony, and we look forward to having it hanging in our front office area from now on. We are at the end of our ceremony, and I know this is a much awaited moment by all of you. We do have a reception upstairs in our library. There are elevators in the front of the building that you can ride to the second floor to be in the library for the reception. And we do welcome all of you for that time. And David, if you and your family would like to go and be up there to receive people, I think that might be a good idea. And that will let y'all go. And then guests, we do thank you for coming. If you did not sign the guest book, it is upstairs in the library area, and please make sure you sign it. The Anthonys would like to have record of your attendance. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in the library.
See if they remember.